I've fulfilled the dream that you couldn't make come true for Ben, Auntie. Saying that, my niece Nicole flaunted the newborn baby to me. Seeing me at a loss for words, Nicole wore a triumphant smile. Our baby looks cute like Nicole, right? She'll definitely be a model or actress in the future. My husband Ben added, as if to twist the knife further. I guess we should be heading home. We've boasted enough about our happiness to the single Kathy. I'm very satisfied today. Ben exchanged a look with Nicole and grinned wickedly. What does he think of our child? To me, who couldn't have children. They were flaunting the baby as if it were merely a tool for showing off. My anger was reaching its limits. At that moment, I realized something. Wait, this child. What's wrong all of a sudden? At my inadvertent remark, Ben reacted slightly. I found it suddenly amusing and laughed.
He he he.
I gently stroked the baby's cheek and said, she looks like an angel, but her skin. As I revealed a certain truth, the expressions of the two, who had been smiling triumphantly, froze instantly. My name is Kathy Simpson, 52 years old. My husband Ben, an executive at a major trading company, whom I have supported as a housewife for many years. Occasionally, Ben brings his subordinates to our home to enjoy my cooking. Most of what comes out of Ben's mouth are his youthful boasts. The subordinates who are brought along often laugh nervously and endure Ben's long talks. When the subordinates praise my cooking as delicious, Ben grins and says, well, that's about the only talent she has. She's feeding off a high earner like me, so she's got to do at least this much. Otherwise, she's just a waste. While I wouldn't say it doesn't bother me, I always remind myself that I'm not in a position to argue. We've been married for nearly 30 years, but we've never had children. I had always dreamed of having at least 2 children after marriage and spent time and money on fertility treatments, but we were never blessed with children. Because of this, I always felt a sense of guilt. So no matter how heartless the remarks Ben made, I always laughed them off and endured, thinking, I'll just bear with this. When Ben talked about his work, his eyes would sparkle like those of a boy. And I was happy to be even a small part of that strength. After all, I am in love with Ben. I had one other skill besides cooking: sewing, which I had enjoyed as a hobby since my student days. I started making handmade dolls by mimicking what my mother did. And they were very popular among my friends. Using that skill to help with the household expenses, I began making stuffed toys and Lucky Charms. Although it might not compare to the income of a high earner like my husband. Still, I continued these small jobs, hoping to at least serve Ben delicious meals. On weekends, my niece Nicole, daughter of my sister Megan, who works in a small trading company, would stay over. There was a reason she came to stay: to support a fledgling idol group. The other day, Chris was on TV for a bit. Wow, he was so cool. Nicole arrived, fanning herself with a fan featuring a young man's face. Chris was the leader of that idol group. This idol group performed regularly at a club close to our apartment every weekend. So she stayed with us to attend these shows. Nicole, have you got more merch recently? Every time Nicole visited, the amount of her stuff in our room increased. But you know, when new merch comes out, I just have to have it. Plus, Chris is the most popular, so it sells out immediately. I absolutely have to get it. As the concert approached, my niece was ecstatic. Indeed, it's exciting for a fan to buy their idol's merch. And I used to collect records of my favorite singers, so I understand the feeling. However, I wondered why she needed to bring all this merchandise into our home. If you have so much, it must be hard to carry around, right? Isn't it difficult? It's fine. I'll store the merch here. Nicole casually placed her belongings in a corner of our bedroom. We live in a not-so-spacious place with just my husband and me. What, it's okay. Uncle just comes home to sleep anyway. I resigned myself to accepting my niece's whims. Oh, and this. I almost forgot. Mom gave this to me. Saying that, Nicole took out a package of high-quality tea leaves from her bag. My sister Megan and her husband, Ted, who joined the family business as a son-in-law and worked at the store, occasionally sent gifts, ensuring Nicole always brought a gift each time. You really don't have to go to all this trouble. After graduating from high school, Megan worked out of state until she was 30. Then took over the family's general store. Since a large commercial facility moved nearby, their customer traffic had significantly declined. So I always told them there was no need for such extravagant gifts. Megan always feels sorry for the trouble Nicole causes. My sister would say apologetically over the phone. However, Nicole herself has been overstepping her bounds lately. Even when we, the couple, are not home, she has started to enter our room without permission. Upon inquiry, it seems that Ben had given her a spare key. Since you come every week, having a spare key would be convenient, right? Ben sweetly said to Nicole. As expected of Uncle, you get it. Saying this, Nicole hugged Ben's arm, and Ben relaxed his cheek muscles with a smirk. Sigh. I guess it can't be helped. At first, I tried to accept it as much as possible, but about 3 months later, one day, an envelope filled with cash that was supposed to be in the drawer of the desk in our bedroom had disappeared. When I later asked Nicole about it, she replied nonchalantly, "Sorry, Auntie. I borrowed it because I really wanted Chris's new merch." Nicole looked at me with pleading eyes. But she is also working as an adult and should be earning enough to not struggle financially. Wouldn't you feel more joy buying things with the money you've earned yourself? Well, of course, I want to buy with my own salary, but it's just not enough. Nicole's nonchalant words weighed heavily on me. How much money is she pouring into collecting her favorite idol's merchandise? It wasn't just about the money. Lately, the rate at which my skincare lotions and creams are being used up has accelerated. Ben has never been one to care for his skin, so if someone is using them, it must be Nicole. When I confronted her, Nicole readily admitted to her actions. Sorry, Auntie. I just took the liberty of using them. What does she mean by took the liberty? These creams were quite expensive. I frowned. And Nicole deliberately rubbed her arms and pretended to shiver. Auntie, you're scary. Then Ben came along and said, standing next to Nicole, laughing with her. That much should be okay. Don't just laugh, please give her a proper warning. Don't be mad. You look even older when you frown like that. Ben, who rarely jokes, becomes talkative only when Nicole is around. I found this particularly displeasing. Anyway, it troubles me if you keep using things in our house without permission. Nicole works too, so you should buy your own things. If you use my things without permission again, I won't let you stay over anymore. I'll tell your mother that too. As I lectured Nicole, Ben turned red and said, Enough already. The things you're using aren't even earned by you, right? I earned everything with my job. I'm not living in luxury. I'm cutting back as much as I can. I'm not using it for fun like Nicole. The money I earned is my own. I say it's okay for Nicole to use it. Just let her use it as she likes. Being yelled at by Ben, I felt like crying. Indeed, most of our income is earned by Ben, so I couldn't argue further. Knowing that Ben would not support me, I felt helpless as my fingers traced the contact of my sister on my smartphone. No. I shouldn't rely on her for such trivial things. I thought just before making the call and returned the smartphone screen to its original state. My sister and her husband are probably preoccupied with their struggling general store right now. Complaining about my husband would only cause them unnecessary worry. Marital problems must be solved by us. Unable to consult anyone, I carried the unresolved feelings as days passed. On a Sunday morning wrapped in genuine coldness of winter, I was invited by a friend from my student days to go shopping. So I wore a fur coat that I had bought long ago and never worn before. I had informed Ben, who had finally taken a day off. I plan to return by evening, but if I'm late, could you eat first? Just reheat yesterday's leftovers in the microwave. Don't worry about me. Take your time and enjoy. Saying this, Ben sent me off with a broad smile. Ben, who belittles me in front of his subordinates, cares for me gently when we're alone. I genuinely felt happy that I married him. However, when I arrived at the station, my plans changed due to a call from my friend. Sorry. My husband threw out his back and can't move. I feel terrible, but I have to cancel today's plans. It can't be helped. Next time we find time, treat me to fancy French cuisine. I joked with my apologetic friend and ended the call, thinking, now, what should I do? I had nothing else planned, so I decided to return to my loving husband at home. On the way, I stopped at the supermarket to buy lunch ingredients and headed to our apartment. I thought of making some warm stew for Ben. As I opened the door, the heat from the heating and a strong scent of perfume hit my nose. At the same time, I noticed Nicole's shoes, which I always see on weekends. Nicole, are you here? No reply came when I called out. I headed to the living room, but no one was there. Strange, where could they have gone? I definitely felt someone's presence, so it didn't seem they were out. After storing the ingredients in the fridge, I decided to look around the apartment again. I could hear Ben's snoring from the bedroom. Could he be taking a nap this early in the morning? I didn't know much about Ben's work, but being an executive, he must be exhausted on weekdays. So, I thought I should let him sleep on his rare day off. But as I opened the bedroom door to sneak a peek at Ben's sleeping face, an unbelievable scene unfolded before my eyes. On the bed where Ben and I usually sleep, there lay Ben and Nicole, both naked and sound asleep. They were both breathing heavily, completely unaware of my return. Ah. You. My voice was as faint as a mosquito's. More than anger, I felt a profound disappointment in my husband. After calling out several times, Ben finally opened his heavy eyelids. What, Kathy? You're back earlier than expected. Ben seemed groggy and closed his eyes again. Nicole, I'm home. Nicole stretched with a and slowly sat up. Upon noticing my presence, she shook Ben, who was sleeping next to her, saying, Uncle, wake up. We got caught. Wake up. It was like a child who had been found during a game of hide and seek. As Nicole called out to Ben with a mischievous grin. Ben, appearing annoyed, sat up and said with a sigh. What, we've been caught already, and casually yawned. What does this mean? Faced with the reality of betrayal by those I had always trusted, I had forgotten even to express my anger. Well, as you see, this is the kind of relationship we have. Both of you, get dressed right now. I was surprisingly calm as I instructed the two naked individuals. 2 hours later, my in-laws and my sister's family arrived in response to my call. Sorry, sister, brother, for bothering you during your busy time. Don't worry about us. More importantly, my sister comforted me by rubbing my back, while simultaneously giving Ben and Nicole a piercing cold look. What is this about? Explain so we can understand. Though my sister scolded Nicole, Nicole just looked away and kept sighing, checking the latest news about her idol group on her smartphone. This is not the time for that. When my sister took the smartphone away, Nicole clicked her tongue. Kathy, I'm so sorry our foolish son has done something so outrageous. My mother-in-law, Diane, tearfully apologized. Both in-laws were over 80 years old. And it must have been difficult for them to come here in the cold. Was there really a need to call these old folks here? As Ben spoke irritably, my father-in-law, Robert, slammed the table. Don't you have any sense of responsibility? Exactly. After such a terrible betrayal to Kathy. I can't believe you. My mother-in-law spoke in a disgusted tone, glaring at Ben. Ben, how did this come to be? Can't you give us a satisfactory explanation? There's nothing to explain. Men prefer young and cute girls like Nicole over an old lady like her. Don't lump me together with you. I'm ashamed to call myself a man like you. My father-in-law shouted, red-faced, showing no sign of remorse from Ben. And Nicole too. How could she hurt Kathy, who has always been so kind to her? Where did we go wrong in raising her? Ted, usually a man of few words, sighed with disappointment. Then, Nicole defiantly said, actually, it was Uncle who took care of me, not Auntie. Whenever I wanted something, Uncle would buy it for me. He even told me I could use any of the cosmetics and bags in the house as much as I wanted. That's totally different from my stingy aunt. Nicole, apologize to Kathy now. No way. Why should I apologize to such an aunt? Don't bother apologizing. Even if you did, it wouldn't restore my relationship with Ben. I spoke calmly. What was the point of the 30 years I had devoted to Ben? Despite his demeaning remarks in public, I had endured them all because I believed he loved me. But now, knowing Ben's betrayal, everything I had protected had collapsed in an instant. Let's get a divorce. There's no other option. Are you sure about that, Kathy? When my sister asked me this, I nodded firmly. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Now we can get married openly. Saying this, Ben pulled Nicole closer by the shoulder. The two gazed at each other, unconcerned about the family's eyes. On our way here, Dad and I talked. We've decided that if you don't show any remorse, we will cut off our parental ties with you after today. My sister said to Nicole, her voice laced with anger and sorrow. I don't care. I can manage without Mom and Dad, and I'll have Uncle from now on. Then the answer is clear. Don't ever set foot in our house again. Ted spoke in a clear tone. Echoing him, the in-laws said, Ben, we too have decided to sever ties with you as of today. My sister and in-laws apologized to me once more and then left with a heavy atmosphere. Following that, my divorce from Ben was finalized. Through the lawyer, the proceedings resulted in a court order for Ben and Nicole to pay compensation, but Ben insisted, I don't want to burden Nicole. So, he ended up paying the compensation for both of them in full. Less than a month after our divorce, Ben remarried Nicole. I'm an executive at a major trading company. I can easily afford it. I'll give all the joint property to you, the jobless one. Driven by his pride, Ben relinquished the shared assets. Furthermore, having to pay compensation for both put him under considerable financial strain. However, as he is now a stranger to me, I've decided not to worry about Ben's situation and to keep moving forward. I returned to my parents' home and began helping out at the general store run by my sister and her husband. Both of my elderly parents are in a care facility. On days when my sister and her husband visit our parents, I take over the shop. I'm sorry for always making you help out. I'm the one who is imposing. I can't just eat without doing anything in return. My sister and her husband have always been concerned about me, particularly because of what their daughter did. The fact that they are concerned makes me feel even more apologetic. 3 years after moving back home, in the summer, Ben and Nicole appeared before me unexpectedly. Why? As I tended the store, the sight of their smiling faces flashed before my eyes. And a dark, murky feeling seemed to spread inside me. It's been a while, Auntie. As she spoke, Nicole cradled a newborn baby in her arms. At the sight of the baby, I lost my words. If Nicole was holding the child, it must surely be her own. Naturally, that would make Ben the father. Seeing me at a loss for words, Nicole smiled triumphantly. I've fulfilled the dream that you couldn't make come true for Ben, Auntie. Nicole said this while soothing the baby. She used to call him Munkle, but now she just calls him by his name. Faced with this reality, my heart was tumultuously shaken. Just then, my sister and her husband returned from being out. What are you doing back here after all this time? Is that how you greet your daughter who's come home after 3 years? Saying this, Nicole flaunted the baby to my sister and her husband. Look, Mom. This is our child. Her name is Amy. She's your first grandchild. I see. Congratulations. Megan said emotionlessly, without even looking her daughter in the eyes. Nicole turned back to me and smiled. I came to announce the birth. Celebrate with us, Auntie. Meet Amy. Enough. What are you thinking, really? Consider Kathy's feelings for once. Even my usually mild-mannered brother-in-law raised his voice this time. Our kid looks just like Nicole, isn't she cute? I bet she'll be a model or an actress someday. Ben said, beaming with pride. Frustrated, my sister grabbed a broom to chase them out. Please leave now. This is not a place for you anymore. You're disrupting our business, so leave us be. I guess it's time to leave. We've boasted enough about our happiness to lonely Kathy today, and I'm very satisfied. Ben and Nicole exchanged glances, both wearing smug smiles. What do they think of their child? It seems like they use her as a tool to flaunt their supposed superiority. I looked at the baby in Nicole's arms with a heavy heart. At that moment, I realized something. Wait. This child. What's wrong all of a sudden? As I tilted my head, Ben looked puzzled. Suddenly amused, I began to laugh.
He.
What's going on? Why start laughing all of a sudden? Maybe Auntie has gone crazy from the shock. I gently stroked the baby's cheek and said. She looks like an angel, but her skin. What about her skin? Is there something wrong? She looks very healthy. Her lovely tan is quite different from yours, Ben. Indeed, the baby's skin was a beautiful tan, markedly different from Ben's fair complexion. So? What about it? There's no one with such a tan in my family or relatives. Is that strange? There are plenty of tan people in the world.
Ah.
That reminds me. Nicole said her great-grandfather was tan. That's called skipping generations, right? Ben said, pointing his finger knowledgeably, but at that moment, my suspicion about Nicole turned into certainty. Impossible. Huh? What do you mean impossible? Ben, suddenly seized by insecurity, raised his voice and questioned me. I walked away and pulled an old album from the closet in the room my grandparents had used. Here it is, something I want Ben to see. Saying this, I showed him a photo from the album. It's just a family photo. In the photo were my sister and I, our parents, and our grandparents. It was taken in front of the store when my parents started their business. The tall man on the right, that's my grandfather, your great-grandfather, Nicole. So? It's just a normal family photo everywhere. Don't you see yet? Look closely at my grandfather's skin. His skin? He's quite fair. So what? It's normal, right? Ben still seemed unable to grasp reality. In contrast to his bewildered look, Nicole's face was turning pale. It's a waste of time being here. Let's go back and feed Amy milk. Nicole tugged at Ben's shirt hem. Unaware Ben was prompted by Nicole to leave, I decided to give them one more clue. There's no one with tan skin in my family, not just my grandfather. None of my relatives either. Wait, you mean? It seemed Ben finally understood what I was implying. Meaning, the chances of you two having a tan child are 0. I stated emphatically. Ben's body started to tremble. So, it's a waste of time being here. Let's go back, shall we? Nicole urged Ben to leave, but now that he understood the situation, he hesitated. Turning to Nicole, Ben confronted her sternly. What does this mean? There's no way we could have a tan child. Then whose child is this? There's something else I want you to see. Saying that, I snatched the keychain with Chris's photo. That Nicole always carried in her bag and showed it to Ben. Chris is publicly known as being half Mexican and half American. Nicole has always admired Chris's exotic looks, often calling them cool. This guy. He has exactly the same skin tone as Amy. Nicole showed a frightened face, but then she defiantly started to laugh.
Ah.
It's finally out. That's right. Amy isn't your child. She's the child I had with Chris. When I seduced him with a little charm, he fell for me right away. With that, Nicole began to boast about her relationship with Chris. You were deceiving me? Like, seriously. Did you really think a young and cute girl like me would be seriously attracted to an old man like you? That's hilarious. How naive can you be? I only approached you because you're an executive at a good company. And looked like you had money. Having a lot of money means I can buy more of Chris's merch. If I buy him lots of gifts, I can have him all to myself. So I was just an ATM to you. Realizing everything, Ben was furious. Obviously. I've been putting up with this for the money. Otherwise, who would share a bed with an old man like you? I let you live your little dream for 3 years. You should be thanking me. What? Before my sister's shocked eyes, Nicole and Ben started arguing. Enough from both of you. The baby is crying, don't you hear her? My sister shouted, stopping their quarrel. I don't want to see such disgraceful behavior anymore. You two are nothing to us now, just strangers. Leave right now. Driven out by my sister, Nicole and Ben left. Poor Amy. I genuinely felt this way. Then, 2 months later, Ben came to see me alone. He suddenly knelt down in front of the store and shamelessly begged me. Please, Kathy. Take me back. I had a DNA test done after that. It turns out there's no blood relation between me and Amy. I was deceived. Oh, really, so what? I couldn't stand that Nicole and Chris conned me into thinking I was the father. So, I went to the concert backstage and demanded they pay me back in compensation. Oh my. What a hassle you've been through. While it didn't matter much to me, I decided to listen to him. I had also gathered information from TV and magazines about this. Chris had an affair with a married fan and impregnated her. It was widely reported that he had tricked the woman's husband into believing the child was his. Although the idol group had been known only to a small circle of fans, this scandal had made them nationally notorious. With nationwide criticism, their agency couldn't defend Chris anymore. And they terminated his contract as reported on various talk shows. I saw it on TV too, he got what he deserved. Right? They really are the worst. Ben laughed as if satisfied. Meanwhile, tabloids continued to aggressively investigate, not only Chris but also Nicole. It turned out that Nicole had been involved with multiple men, earning money to lavish on Chris. See? I'm also a poor victim who was deceived by them. So please, let's start over. Rejected. Ignoring Ben's tearful plea for reconciliation, I responded in a monotone voice. Then I called my brother-in-law from the back of the shop to carry Ben out if he refused to leave. If you keep bothering Kathy, I'll call the police. Ted said sternly, and Ben walked away dejectedly. A month later. Although the magazine stories had died down, reports about Chris and Nicole continued. According to articles, Chris, now jobless, was exploiting Nicole. Nicole had started working in the nightlife to earn living expenses. It was difficult for Nicole and Chris to raise a child under financial strain. Ultimately, feeling pity for Amy, my sister and her husband decided to take her in and raise her. Despite everything, this child is still our granddaughter. That's right. The child isn't to blame. While running the general store daily, my sister and her husband took care of Amy. As for me, since then, I moved away from home and opened the sewing school I had always dreamed of. I couldn't always depend on my sister and her husband. Megan had said, "You can stay as long as you like." But when I mentioned I had things I wanted to do, she gladly encouraged me to pursue them. Amy's first birthday is coming up soon. What should I get her as a gift? Half wanting to see Amy and half to see my sister and her husband. I still occasionally visit the family store whenever I find the time.